The Bogosity Podcast, early and ad-free. Become a subscriber at Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord. Use the links at donate.bogosity.tv.
Welcome to a special archive edition of the Bogosity Podcast. We're out this week on Thanksgiving, but Donald Trump has just selected, of all people, Dr. Mehmet Oz to run the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Yes, the man who lost to John Fetterman. Trump said, quote, Dr. Oz will work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to take on the illness industrial complex and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake. Wow, what a combination. So, just so everyone understands just how terrible this is, here are 5 segments from previous podcasts regarding Dr. Oz, and understand that this is all just a small taste of this guy's lunatic pseudoscience. Enjoy! And now it's time to give the public a cure for this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And this week it goes to Dr. Mehmet Oz. We haven't done him before, but it's not as if he hasn't deserved it.
My mom loves Dr. Oz, and she watches the show and everything. And honestly, at first, I'm like, he's pretty, harmless. But when I looked at this, it's just, he's not harmless.
Yeah, he's one of those doctors who goes on TV to sell his snake oil supplements. And recently he was called before a Senate subcommittee which chastised him about all these ridiculous weight loss treatments he was hawking on his show. And so Dr. Oz opens his mouth on TV about these BS products like green coffee extract and all of its supposed treatments. He was touting that as a weight loss treatment, which at best, these remedies and everything of his are unproven. In many cases, they're completely disproven. And they're also touted as safe products. They're just supplements and they're all natural and all that, and they have no side effects, which is far from the truth. Many of these are downright dangerous. And just for an example, I want to talk about St. John's wort. Dr. Oz and all sorts of people have been touting this as a natural remedy for depression. Now, it actually has been verified that taking St. John's wort will have a small antidepressant effect if you take enough of it. But that's because it contains MAO inhibitors. Much better MAO inhibitors were sold as pharmaceuticals for years, but were phased out by later drugs because MAO inhibitors, and this includes St. John's wort, have terrible diet and drug interactions. Most of them have now been taken off the market entirely, but people see Dr. Oz on TV, and then they get this supplement, and they aren't advised in any way about these dangerous interactions. They don't know what are the things in the diets that's going to cause it, or they might be taking other medications, not only for depression, but for other things. And not only are they not told about these interactions, it's just the opposite. They're told it's safe, and they don't have to worry about it. And this is just irresponsible. I mean, if you take St. John's wort, you're either going to take so little of it that there will be no effect at all, or you'll be in danger of these hideous side effects of interactions, which is exactly what these alt-med yahoos complain about with big pharma products and claims that theirs don't have.
It's just, if it feels good, even though we have no doctors or anything else, it has to be good. The guy, he's a doctor, so
it's natural. Anything natural has to be good.
Yeah, like anthrax.
Or cocaine.
Like botulism. Well, wait a minute. What am I talking about? They shoot their faces full of botulism. All right, so after Dr. Oz goes on national TV and says how great all these supplements are, the companies that make and sell these products use his quotes. One quote of his about green coffee extract that was passed around by all these people. He said, quote, "You may think magic is make-believe, but this little bean has scientists saying they found the magic weight loss for every body type." That could not be further from the truth. The opinion of the scientific community is completely counter to this and so many other claims that he makes.
Wow, that's amazing to say all this stuff. And doesn't he have, like, say, for example, a team or something to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't go out and say something this huge and extraordinary. Because if this was, because you know what you say, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, right? Or that's like, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Look, every type of scientist, make sure if it's done, make sure it's verified, everything else. And if it is, shout it from the rooftop, shout it from everyone. Go on not only your show, but every media outlet and say everything else, and we finding something. Because this would be great, but more often than not, these guys don't want to do that because that affects their bottom line. It's all about making money for them. And they just do not care about the science. They just care about their own bank account.
Yep. So listen to what Dr. Oz had to say, quote, "My job, I feel, on the show is to be a cheerleader for the audience. And when they don't think they have hope, when they don't think they can make it happen, I want to look, and I do look everywhere, including in alternative healing traditions, for any evidence that might be supportive to them." And he also defended his miracle claims as, quote, flowery language. And he also said, quote, "When I feel as a host of a show that I can't use words that are flowery, that are exultatory, I feel like I've been disenfranchised, like my power has been taken away to get people. You don't want to be on a pulpit talking about how passionate you are about life and thinking, well, if I use that word, it's going to be quoted back to me. And yes, the 100 words around it are all about doing other things right, so I'm very respectful. I've heard the message. I've told my colleagues at the FTC, I get it."
So basically, I should be able to lie to my audience if it makes them feel better.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes them feel better, Come on, Shane, Jonathan. It's all about feeling good. It's not about doing good. That's how the world works now. That's how everything is. Got to make them feel good and everything instead of
But listen to everything he said. I mean, he talks about being a cheerleader, about giving them hope, about, looking in all sorts of places and not wanting to be disenfranchised. He said not one word about wanting to be scientifically accurate.
And that is the most important thing. If he wants to be an entertaining show, then be an entertaining show. But when you say this type of flowery language, well, promoting stuff that's not actually scientific, that's not flowery language. That's dangerous type of stuff. You're giving them false hope.
That's exactly it. It's false hope. I mean, people aren't going to take this coffee bean extract and actually lose the weight. Or if they do, it's because they did other things, like they actually got control of their diet and started exercising and all that. And then when they do lose the weight, they say it was the coffee bean when it was actually them all along.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's taking that away from them.
And it's sad that people fall for it because they want that hope. They want to feel like, they can't have that. It's hard for them. They don't have the time for exercise. And they say, hey, this pill or all this type of stuff can help them. But sadly, it doesn't.
Pretty much all the quote-unquote doctors that have come out of the Oprah Winfrey line have all been quack. Because there's him, Dr. Phil.
I've never actually done any research on Dr. Phil, so I don't know enough to say if he's a quack.
There's somebody else now.
Oh, Joseph Merkle is another one.
It says something there that all these people now have daytime TV shows. And really, it's fad medicine. It's using the current buzzwords of the time. All natural, GMO-free.
Gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
And take your antioxidants, and that'll cure everything.
Get your gluten. Eat nothing but gluten-free brownies. That'll make you lose weight.
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So that's why Dr. Mehmet Oz has to be this week's biggest Bogon emitter.
Sometimes you just have to stomp some skulls. From the mind of Mr. Dapperton, a game for the ages. In a world where a race of undead furries tries to take over the world's nuclear arsenal, one man must stop them. But which man? You choose. Dapperton, Elon,
Not my Dogecoins.
Joe,
Build me back.
Shapiro,
My kippa's ruined.
or Don John.
Ow, my ear.
Forget those losers. You know you want to play as me, Lord Killian. That's right. You can stomp the skulls of those commie furries and save the universe as me.
7 complete different worlds with more coming all the time. Full controller support. You can even get eaten by a worm and pooped out into a furry cathedral. You know you want this game. Go to links.bogosity.tv/skullstompers and play Skull Stompers now.
And now let's click our heels together 3 times and say this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And once again, it goes to Dr. Mehmet Oz. We did him for the first time back in June, and didn't take him long for him to get his second one. I suppose it was inevitable that someone was going to claim this at some point. He says that GMOs cause autism.
Of course.
Yeah, and instead of trying to get to the original comments, I'm just linking to this one article on thenest.com from Stephen Novella, which is just an absolutely beautiful takedown, as Stephen Novella usually does. So he talks about Oz and his guest, which was anti-GMO activist Zen Honeycutt, are claiming that pesticides that are used with certain GMO varieties may cause autism. And, of course, they're doing the whole thing where, oh, well, look at the rise in autism, and now look at the rise in use of these pesticides and GMOs. Yeah, they went up together. Yeah.
It's that kind of intellectual sleight of hand. So dishonest.
But he has this great graphic that I love. He made a graphic where he shows the rise in autism and the rise in sales of organic food, and it's a nice, real tight correlation.
Yeah, that was just awesome. Oh, God. That's up there with the pirates and global warming one.
Yeah. What was that one we gave the Silver Clue One award to where you could do all the different correlations and find them yourself?
It looks like it's www.tylervegan.com spurs correlations.
Spurious correlations, that was it.
Yeah, like the one on top. U.S. spending on science, space, and technology. Suicides by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation.
Yeah.
Correlation 99%.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to play around with. So Oz's idea is one of the reasons for doing GMO crops is so that you can make them resistant to certain pesticides, and then you put the pesticides on the crops, and that helps take care of it. And the pesticides are hazardous to your health and might specifically cause autism, whereas organic food is pesticide-free. No, it's not. And as we just saw with the manure fertilizer, it's not all that good either.
Not only that, but wash your food. Run water on it at the very least. I mean, even the things of fruit that I get from the store say, please wash before use or before consumption.
Yeah, so this Zen Honeycutt character said, quote, "We love our farmers and we have faith in our farmers. We have faith that they can and will farm as has been done for thousands of years without GMOs I know. Well, wait. Listen to this next bit. Without GMOs containing foreign proteins and the use of toxic chemicals."
Okay, first off, what the hell does foreign proteins even mean?
I don't know. A protein is an amino acid chain that kind of folds over on itself, and most of them are broken down in your stomach and intestines by your digestive processes. There are some that actually make it through, but as part of the testing of GMO foods, they test specifically for those protein sequences that have been known to make it through digestion or cause allergies or toxicities. And so far, there have been precisely 0 reported cases of allergic reactions to GMO food.
Also, another little word choice there that confused me here. So, toxic chemicals. This person does know that
like dihydrogen monoxide.
Exactly. They do know that, even water can kill you if you drink too much of it. It's not just the chemical or compound or whatever itself, but also the dosage and the person consuming it. They know that, right? Well,
yeah.
am I kidding? I doubt they care.
Now, different chemicals have different levels of toxicity, but I mean, they act like it's just like the anti-vax people with mercury. And I was like, if there's one mercury atom in there, oh no, it's this big toxic thing that'll give you autism. No, it's the amount. It's the amount that's important.
It kind of reminds me of how, I remember talking, with this one person regarding potassium. Basically, we were learning about nutrition and stuff. How, it's not necessarily just the sodium in your diet, but rather the ratio of potassium to sodium. And they're talking about how, but that's probably, natural potassium, not potassium in chemicals or whatever because, I'm told that that's what they'll inject like in animals when they euthanize them. And I think, okay, now maybe it's just the chemist in me, but they do know that unless we're talking about different radioactive isotopes or whatever, or maybe possibly different chemical compounds, then all potassium atoms are identical.
Well, and like chlorine will kill you, but if it's part of a salt molecule, it's fine.
Yeah. And I think now I haven't researched it yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the person telling them that left out the second half of that molecule's name, potassium. I was thinking it was probably something like, I don't know, potassium, and I lost it for a second.
Potassium iodide?
I was thinking either that or potassium cyanide.
Potassium cyanide would be bad news.
Yeah. I was thinking one or the other. I mean,
potassium iodide is the pills they give us because I live near a nuclear plant, and, if something ever happens, like has never ever happened before with that type of nuclear power plant, you take those and it's supposed to protect your thyroid. And you can also get potassium chloride, which if you need to cut down on your sodium, that's a good replacement for salt.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
Well, the thing about GMOs is they've actually reduced the use of insecticides, because what they do is they make the plant resistant to the insects or just in some way undesirable or don't attract the insect or whatever. And so what that means is they usually use Roundup, and of course Roundup is made by Monsanto, which is the big evil, but Roundup is glyphosate, and I think we might have covered this before, but glyphosate is actually one of the least toxic herbicides out there.
But that doesn't matter because it's Monsanto, which as we all know is the great Satan.
Also, if you have to do a lot of tilling of the soil to reduce the number of weeds you have, that's actually bad for the soil, and it releases carbon into the atmosphere. And so really glyphosate is better than pretty much all the other options we have right now. Now, Novella does say that there are problems when you start over-relying on a single method of control. What happens if they all get a resistance to glyphosate? What happens then? But at least for the time being, until they can come up with other things, it's really the best option.
Of course, I'm sure that won't stop the anti-GMOs and their fun little nirvana fallacies.
So Honeycutt claims that when she switched her family to an all-organic diet, within 8 weeks, her son's symptoms of autism went away. Steve Novella calls this highly implausible. I call it impossible. Autism is the way the brain is wired together. It's a developmental disorder. And even if you could say, autism is caused by this, so let's stop that, it wouldn't reverse the changes that have already been made to the brain. And even if it could, it certainly couldn't do it within 8 weeks. And,
Yeah, that'd be completely ridiculous. So changes made over a course of years magically reversed in 8 weeks. Yeah, that's totally not snake oil salesman tactic right there. People, stop listening to Dr. Oz. He is a charlatan. I know some people who, like in real life, will try and get info from him because I'm told he is at least somewhat decent on some things, but honestly, my advice, find more reliable sources. Please.
So once again, Dr. Oz comes to the forefront as this week's biggest Bogon emitter. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. And one more repeat offender to talk about. He got biggest Bogon emitter twice. And I'm talking about Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Oh, God.
He got it for defending in front of a congressional committee his pseudoscientific claims as harmless, flowery language.
Wait, harmless, flowery language? People actually take his advice. That has effects on people.
Yep, absolutely. And then he got it again for trying to say that GMOs cause autism. I mean, you knew it was coming sooner or later.
One of those?
Yeah. Well, and actually now, a study published in the British Medical Journal looked over a whole bunch of episodes of the Dr. Oz show and concluded that it's very dangerous. Only 46% of his claims were corroborated in any way by the science. 36% had no supporting evidence, and 15% were directly contradicted by the science.
I really need to convince my mother not to watch this guy.
They also looked at The Doctors, which is another daytime show with like 5 doctors or something. It did a little better, but not much. And really, at the very least, when you're watching these shows, take them with several grains of salt.
So what do these people, where do these people get their doctorates? And in what exactly?
They're actual MDs. They're actual, real doctors. In fact, Dr. Oz went to Harvard.
I was thinking that maybe they got their doctorates in like French literature or something.
Nope. Having those letters beside your name is no guarantee that you know what you're talking about. Which is why argument from authority is a fallacy.
Wait, no, that's not what Dr. Bogus told me.
So it's time for me to decide, out of all the worthy contenders, which one deserves to be Idiot of the Year? The one who bleated the most bogosity, whether deliberately or out of stupidity, that rang the loudest through the world. And I think when you look at the sheer magnitude of misinformation, it really comes down to a tie between Food Babe and Dr. Oz. Both, throughout the year and even long before, have ensnared untold amounts of people with their falsehoods to the point of potentially putting their own health at risk. So to break this tie, I think it all comes down to magnitude, and while both have their audience, I think it's clear who has caused the most harm week in and week out as millions watch and are potentially fooled. Everything from diet scams to homeopathy to fear-mongering about beneficial technologies such as GMOs, and even questioning the benefit of vaccines, with one unsubstantiated claim after another going against both the scientific evidence and standard medical practice. As the show wins award after award, and one media group after another comments on its influence. It's impossible to count how many people have been harmed, which is why it's important to bring as much attention to this as possible. That someone so careless and fraudulent can be listened to and respected and admired by so many is beyond reprehensible. It is an epidemic all on its own. So out of all the contenders, above and beyond all the bogosity and stupidity we've seen in 2014, this podcast declares the one that stands out above the rest, whose misinformation has caused untold harm and will likely continue to do so. We officially shame Dr. Mehmet Oz as our 2014 Idiot of the Year. Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-aged children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins. You may recall that Dr. Mehmet Oz was our Idiot of the Year for 2014. Now, some emails that were obtained during the Sony hack last year and published by WikiLeaks show the inner workings of how he gets the recommendations for his show, and it's not pretty.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and of course, lots of people watch his show because he's giving them all this advice on what kind of health products and devices that they should use. And of course, he's a good-looking guy on TV with the word doctor in front of his name. So that must mean that he is giving you proper information based on the data and on the science and how healthy these things have actually been shown for you. Well, not really. It has a lot more to do with business considerations and what's going to keep his producers happy. One of the producers, of course, is Sony. And when the Sony hack happened, all those emails were released, and a lot of them were between Dr. Oz and his staff and executives at Sony. So, for example, there's one that goes to the CEO of Sony Entertainment, Michael Linton, quote, "I have been carefully following the wearable device market and am pretty close to consummating a longer-term relationship, but just saw this piece below, quoting Haz Hirai, the president and CEO of Sony, and realized that Sony is moving into the space as well. We should leverage the Sony-driven success of our TV show into other arenas where Sony thrives, like health hardware." Yeah, so this doesn't have anything to do with health considerations or how good it is for you or how good it is, because I think they're making things that have heart monitors and things like that. Nope, it's about how can we help Sony be successful with their products.
What really bugs me about this is that he is actually a doctor, which is just going to give the anti-big pharma people just more fuel for the fire. Say, profit corrupts some doctors or whatever. Even though I bet you if you kept digging through this, you're going to find subsidies from politicians in this equation somewhere. I mean, you really couldn't get away with this in a free market where people can check this out and all that.
Oh, there was all sorts of stuff in the Sony emails about subsidies and relationships with politicians and stuff like that. But
here it comes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they've always had the big lobbying group, especially for copyrights and things like that. We've covered stuff like that. But, Sony does make really good hardware, and I'm really hoping that these wearables they're coming out with do end up being good and do end up being of great benefit for a lot of people. But I'm not going to take Dr. Oz's word on whether or not they are.
Yeah, because Sony's good with electronics. They're not doctors, and they really shouldn't be having a say in what goes on a doctoring show like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a huge conflict of interest. If Sony produces his show and he's on there hawking Sony products, well... So you also have Keith Weaver, Executive Vice President for Worldwide Government Affairs at Sony, who wrote, quote, "Dr. Oz has not entered into a paid sponsorship agreement to date, but would like to explore doing so in the future. We have apprised the appropriate parties of the risks associated with the future plans, as well as specific criticisms of Dr. Oz's role in the national conversation about health that could emerge in the hearing or in subsequent coverage." And he was talking about that hearing we covered when Dr. Oz was before the Senate Commerce Subcommittee. But all this is about, well, we don't want to make it appear as though there's anything going wrong here, as opposed to there actually is nothing going wrong here. And I mean, you also have the model followed by people like Consumer Reports. I know the Twit Network, This Week in Tech, does this. They just refuse to take sponsorship deals from any of the companies whose products they review, not even advertising dollars or anything like that. And I think the Twit people won't even accept the freebies that the company sends out. They'll actually go and buy it and test it just so there won't be any possibility of anything like that going on. But not Dr. Oz.
Oh, yeah. It's become common practice after the whole Gamergate thing. People are now saying, here's where my money's coming from, who's sponsoring me, so this may taint my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think Dr. Oz is going to be putting any of these kind of disclaimers on his show.
Well, and even if it is, it's probably like that John Edward kind of disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. And then, you give one little disclaimer saying this isn't real, and then 50 other times during the episode you say it's real.
Yeah.
And this Vox article talks about another of their producers, Harpo, who was talking about the hearing again, wondering about whether he should actually appear because of the potential negative public relations fallout. Quote, It is also worth noticing for the record that Harpo's counsel is not in favor of Oz participating, especially when he's not legally obligated to do so. They do not see the value of getting involved unless compelled by subpoena, because there's always the potential for downside, no matter how slight. And then you also had Sheraton Kaluria, chief marketing officer at Sony, quote, "We feel we should not give the media who looks at Oz like a snake oil salesman right now any fodder to further this perception."
Well, if the shoe fits, wear it.
Yeah, we don't actually want him going out there where he can actually answer questions where he might have to tell the truth and things like that.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, the psychics there. They'll never go for an interview with someone who's going to ask them the hard questions.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I do want to say I'm not picking on Dr. Oz, because I've seen some other medical shows on there that are kind of like that. There's this one called The Doctors, where apparently everyone up there is an actual doctor, but they always have this segment where they hawk the products that you can buy and things like that.
Yeah, people always in life try to sell you things, but you always got to be skeptical about it, people. Always be sure to follow the money and see, does this person have an incentive to lie to me, or does he have an incentive to be honest and upfront?
Or even just, do they have any personal bias? I want to tell you about the eyeglasses I've been wearing for years. As people can see on my videos, I have a very strong prescription, which makes glasses more expensive, especially when I need computer glasses, reading glasses, prescription sunglasses, and most expensively, progressive lenses for general everyday wear. To save money while still getting quality glasses, I get them from Firmoo. In fact, I just got a pair of progressives with high-index aspherical lenses and a nice pair of frames my wife loves for just over $100. It would have been $500 to get them through my eye doctor. Not only do they look good, the glasses are durable. I've worn many pairs for several years without problems. All orders come with a 30-day return policy, a 3-month warranty, and one-on-one customer service. Go to Firmoo, that's FIRMOO.Bogosity.tv anytime you need quality glasses at a low price. Once again, that's Firmoo.Bogosity.tv. And now let's flagellate this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And this week it goes to the Republican Party for one of the most baffling missteps they've probably ever taken. The recent midterm elections were the first ones since the COVID pandemic largely abated. After the government spending 2 years pushing pseudoscience and one tyrannical policy after another to the frustration and exhaustion of most of the public, they had a unique opportunity. They could run an actual doctor for, in this case, Pennsylvania Senate. Someone who knows his stuff when it comes to medicine and is as respected as he is convincing. Instead, they ran Mehmet Oz. Yes, the same Dr. Oz who's repeatedly pushed pseudoscience, paranormal phenomena, and even faith healing. You've got to wonder what they were thinking when they got behind Dr. Oz, of all people, in one of their most visible races. And the Democratic opponent was John Fetterman, someone who's about as electable as a putrescent boil. He struggles to answer simple questions. He can't seem to construct complex sentences, and all of his inflections are those of a bully demanding your lunch money. Peter Boyle was more eloquent in Young Frankenstein when he sang Puttin' on the Ritz. He even looks like Thanos. Issues-wise, he's even worse. Even on his website, the positions are bland and unimaginative, the usual stuff like capping prescription drug prices and ending immoral price gouging. Lacking any real plan on how to do anything, his website even lists as an issue, I kid you not, make more shit in America. He even repeatedly refused to take audience questions. Fetterman really sounds like a failed Republican candidate from the 90s. So it should have been a fairly easy ride to victory, especially given the resources the party put into Oz's campaign. Mitch McConnell even pulled $40 million of the Senate Leadership Fund from the crucial Arizona race to fund Dr. Oz. all of which might be forgivable if he'd actually won, but Oz lost with 46.67% of the vote to Fetterman's 50.91. Not even his status as the first Muslim to be nominated by either party for U.S. Senate earned him anything special. Even Oprah, who spent 2 decades propping up Dr. Oz and giving him basically his entire audience, the Dr. Oz show was actually produced by Winfrey's Harpo Productions, endorsed Fetterman. Jimmy Kimmel posted a picture of Oprah drinking wine with the caption, "Oprah watching Oz go down in flames." Yeah. Try and distance yourself, Oprah. We at least haven't forgotten when you and Oz promoted John of God, who's now serving life in prison for keeping teenage sex slaves and other sex crimes, many of minors, including his own 14-year-old daughter, totaling over 600 counts. That's evil we won't soon forget. People were posting memes of Oz with captions such as, "Claims to hate socialism, keeps getting publicly owned." Ordinarily, the left can't meme, but Dr. Oz is just that easy a target. Sports writer Ewan McKenna summed it up perfectly when he tweeted, "Who thought parachuting a rich celebrity TV doctor who promotes whatever he's paid to as the #1 weight loss treatment and believes your astrological sign defines your health into a place he's not from and doesn't live in a brutal recession for a key race was a good idea." Not only running and supporting him, but pulling so much money away from their other candidates, a move that probably cost them a few crucial Senate seats, makes the Republican Party this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this special Dr. Oz compilation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go to donate.bogosity.tv for several ways to support, and discord.bogosity.tv to join the discussion. Subscribe at the Discord or at Patreon or Subscribestar, and you can listen early and ad-free. Thank you for listening. Regular podcasts will continue next week. The Bogosity Podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.